Hi, today we're building Zener diode regulators for the battery pack on an electric vehicle. In this case, I've got 50 batteries in my pack and I want to make sure that they charge evenly each time that I charge them. It will contribute to the life of the batteries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 8-gauge wire, and at the end of it I'm going to attach a Zener regulator or a Zener diode in each end of the ring terminals, and there will be a flashlight bulb in series with that. So let me show you how we do this. So the first thing we want to do is take a regular flashlight bulb and a 10 ohm resistor, and I'm going to take this 10 ohm resistor and wrap it around the base of the flashlight bulb. And I've got one here already for video that's bent to fit, and we want to wrap that around the base like so, with a tail that comes over the top. We'll attach that to our Zener diode, which will be on a ring terminal, and I'll show you how we do that next. First I want to take a 6.2 volt Zener diode, and I'm going to put it with the black stripe facing toward the ring, and I'm going to bend the tail over, leaving just a little bit of that Zener diode exposed out the end of the cylinder on the ring terminal. And then I'll fold that down nice and tight and get it ready for soldering. Using my little jig here, it makes things a little easier for me. Get that solder nice and hot so it will stay there, and then we'll cool this down. I like to use a little water to quench it, but I don't get the water on the Zener diode. Now I trim the tail just where I folded it over, and I take the rest of the tail and about 5/8 of an inch back I fold it at 90 degrees. Then I'm going to bend that around in a semicircle so that it matches the shape of the base of my flashlight bulb, which already has the resistor attached. Then I take the two and put them together, and I'm going to clamp them and get them ready for soldering. Then I'm going to put that into my jig and solder it all together. Here again, you want to use plenty of solder. Make sure that it gets hot enough to stick properly. And then where the tail curves over the base of the flashlight bulb, I'm going to solder that as well. And let that cool down. Now that that's cooled down, we'll bend that tail over at the base of the bulb, and we're ready to attach it to the 8-gauge wire. So we just work that into the strands on the end of the 8-gauge wire. Kind of squish those down around that tail, and we're ready to put it in the jig and solder it up. Here again, we want to use plenty of solder. Make sure that it gets thoroughly absorbed into the strands. So it takes a minute to generate that heat, and we want to get it all the way around. And that should last the life of the Zener regulator. Now we're ready to attach some shrink tube, and I like to use red on the positive end to identify that clearly, and we'll heat that up and get it shrunk down. Okay, now we're ready to attach a black one for the other end, and we'll make our Zener diode with a ring terminal for the negative end. This time I'm going to take a 6.8 volt Zener diode, and I'm going to have the black stripe facing away from the ring. I'm going to fold that over. Once again, I leave just a little bit of the Zener diode sticking out the base of that ring terminal, and I'm going to fold that over nice and tight and solder. resolder. And we'll let that cool down. Now we're going to trim the tail where we folded it over, and this time we're going to trim the tail, the rest of the Zener diode, back about a half an inch. And we'll take that and work that into the strands of the wire again, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of the tail showing. And I like to make sure that I'm flat in relation to the positive end, and I'm ready to put that in my jig and solder. Once again, we're using plenty of solder, getting it all the way around, and that'll keep the joint tight. Now we shrink wrap the black tube on the negative end. And last but certainly not least, what you want to do with the ends where the cylinder is on each end, where the Zener diodes go through, you're going to want to take some plastic weld epoxy or potting compound, but this works very well. Mix that up and fill the ends of those cylinders. It'll work as a heat sink and a protective agent, and you definitely want it there to help those Zener diodes live. And that is one complete Zener regulator for a battery. Now I just need 49 more.